Good morning. In this week's parasha, Parashat Eikev, we read the second paragraph of the Shma, the Vahaya im Shamua, one of the famous parts of the Jewish prayer service. We say it at least twice a day, generally even 3 times a day, and it's a wonderful statement, and it's certainly worthy to dedicate some time to thinking about exactly what it is, what it means, and some lessons we can learn from it. When it comes to the Shema generally, it's important to understand that it's not a prayer in the classical sense of the word. We aren't asking Hashem for anything. Prayer, as we understand it, is basically a request. To be more accurate, there are 3 parts of prayer. There is praising God, asking from God, and thanking God. Perhaps we'll discuss those another time. But the Shema is none of those 3. If you look certainly at the second paragraph of the Shema, it's a statement of consequences. It's a declaration of the fact that if we are loyal to Hashem, if we love Hashem, if we serve Hashem, then things will be good for us. If we turn away from Hashem, God forbid, things will not be so good. That's the basic summary of that part of the Shema. But none of the Shema is a conversation with God in the way that the Amidah and classical prayer is. So the Shema is not a prayer, it's a declaration. What are we supposed to achieve with the Shema? The Chofetz Chaim, in his book Shem Olam, has a wonderful analogy. He says that you have a very wealthy man with a magnificent mansion is going away for a bit, and he hires somebody to house sit to take care of the house while he's away. And he writes up a long list for this man of all of the things that he needs to do. And he says to this house sitter, he says, but I want you to make sure to read this list every single morning. House sitter says, absolutely no problem, I'll do it. So the man goes away for a couple of weeks, he comes back, the house is in shambles. The garden is in disarray, the pets haven't been fed, the house is a huge mess, dishes haven't been washed, you can't believe, the place looks ridiculous. So he calls over this house sitter. He said, what's going on? I hired you to do a job. He says, sir, I fulfilled your words to the letter. Every single morning, I read the list that you gave me. Mow the lawn, clean up the garden, feed the pets, wash the dishes. I read it. I read it faithfully. I read it every morning and every evening. And the master of the house says, you fool. The point isn't to read it. That doesn't achieve what I want you to achieve. It's so important for you to have a consciousness of this. It's so important for you to know what your responsibilities are and what you should be doing, that I want you to read it every day. But you don't achieve what you're supposed to achieve simply by reading it every day. That's the same thing with the Shema. The idea of the Shema is that these are principles that are so foundational to Jewish thought and Jewish life that we read it every morning and every evening. Not that the reading itself is sufficient, but that the reading is the gateway to our consciousness to get our heads into the right place. Not to say that you should do that without reading. I'm not saying that's the only point of the mitzvah. But what I'm saying is that reading alone is not the goal. Reading certainly is how we go about it. But the reading alone is not the goal. It's to create this awareness and to change our own mindset and our own behavior. The Sefer HaChinuch says that the idea is you say the Shema every morning. It gives you this awareness of the presence of Hashem and our responsibilities towards Hashem, so that the entire day your focus will be, you'll be asking yourself, what's the right thing to do? What does God want me to do? How does God want me to live my day? Then, the beginning of the evening, we say Ma'ariv, we say the Shema again, so that your mind again is focused on living a good and spiritual night. And you do that every morning and every evening. It should transform your day and your night. Not that it's something that you do and then you're finished. It's not reading the list and then going. Rabbi Beryl Wein has a wonderful story when he was in charge of the OU, the Orthodox Union Kashrut, the biggest Kashrut certification in the world. He had just taken over and he wanted to go and see how things happen on the ground, so to speak. So he went to some function. It was a very big banquet with a huge buffet. And he went to see the mashgiach to see that everything was in order. The mashgiach was doing what he was supposed to. And he finds, to his surprise, that the mashgiach is at the buffet schmoozing and eating. And he goes up to the mashgiach, who doesn't know who he is, and he says to him, aren't you the mashgiach? He says, yes. He says, shouldn't the mashgiach be in the kitchen? And the mashgiach says to him, what's the problem? It's under the OU. You know, like, it's not my problem. And that's the problem. Is sometimes we say, shouldn't we be more focused on asking ourselves, what does God think? Shouldn't we be more focused on loving Hashem, on proper respect for Hashem, on all of the lessons of the Shema? But it's so easy to think to ourselves, but I've said the Shema. What's it got to do with me? What more do I need to worry about? And Rashi has just one insight that I'd like to share with you from Rashi on this section of the Shema. That it says, Hishamru lachem. When the tone of the Shema changes from all of the good things to the not so good things. Hishamru lachem. Guard yourselves. Protect yourselves. Pen yifter levavachem. Lest your heart be seduced. V'sartem. And you turn away. V'avadetem Elohim acherim. And serve foreign gods. Beware lest you turn away and serve other gods. But the Torah leaves something out. Turn away from what? Beware lest you turn away and serve other gods. Turn away from what? Our intuitive answer is turn away from Hashem. Don't turn away from Hashem and serve other gods. But Rashi tells us that's not what it's saying. Don't turn away from the Torah. Torah study is what keeps our Judaism alive, deep, and vibrant. It's Torah study that makes our Judaism Judaism. It's not a bunch of nice rituals. It's not a collection of mitzvot. It's not a social structure or even a way of life. It is a Torah, it is a system from God, godly wisdom telling us how we should live. It is a dialogue and engagement with the Creator of the world where we are able to tap into His wisdom, so to speak, and His view on life. The Torah is of such central and prime importance to Judaism. Pirkei Avot, when the Shimon HaTzadik speaks about the three pillars on which the world stands, in the very second Mishnah of Pirkei Avot, the first one he says, Al HaTorah. The world stands on Torah. First and foremost on the Torah. So therefore Rashi tells us the Shema is saying, Hishamru lachem, protect yourself. V'sartem, if you turn away from Torah, v'avadetem Elohim acherim, you will end up serving foreign gods. And the Kotzker Rebbe said foreign gods does not necessarily mean worshipping wood and stone, worshipping idols, but that God becomes foreign to you. Your Judaism, instead of being a passionate and active involvement with God, can again become a set of empty rituals where God becomes foreign, where God becomes something other and different. And that's certainly not the goal of Judaism. The goal of Judaism is a passionate, close, respectful, but loving relationship with our Creator. And the Shema is the declaration that can help us get there. Have a wonderful Shabbos.